What's up, adventuresses? In today's episode, we are going to be covering 10 horsey books about travel and adventures, which you should be reading right now. Before we get started, if you could do me a huge favor and actually go ahead and hit the like button and hit the subscribe button. This actually helps with the YouTube algorithm, so that way more people can actually discover this channel, so I really appreciate it. I'm your host, Crystal Kelly, and welcome to Equestrian Adventuresses, the show dedicated to helping you travel the world on horseback. Without any further delay, let's get into the 10 horsey books about adventure and travel that you should be reading right now. The first book that you should be reading is In Ethiopia with a Mule by Dervla Murphy. Now, in 1966, Dervla actually traveled the length and breadth of Ethiopia, first on a mule and then later on a donkey. Now, she survived 3 armed robberies. She actually rode 3,000 miles on a trail, and, she experienced a lot of amazing adventures, and especially, more importantly, she began to understand another race. This book is definitely worth a read if you haven't already. The second book on our list that you should be reading is actually the Equestrian Adventuresses book number 1, Saddles and Sisterhood. This book is actually based on a lot of true stories. We've collected a lot of stories from amazing women around the world. So there's a girl who actually encountered bears in Canada. There's my story where I actually rode my 2 horses across Ireland, and we were basically knocking on strangers' doors in order to find a field for the night for our horses and a place to stay. So you're going to find that and much more in this book. Also, a girl, she actually grew up in the Bronx, and if you're like me, you don't really think of the Bronx, and horses. She's going to open your eyes to a whole nother level of city riding, and she gets to race her childhood rivalry, which is pretty exciting. And then there's also stories in Australia and Greece and France and all kinds of fun things. So this is definitely, if you haven't already, this is worth the read. You can find this book anywhere on Amazon globally, and also we're going to include a link in the show notes, if you want to go ahead and grab a copy today. The third book that you should read is Land of Eagles, Riding Through Europe's Forgotten Country. This book is by Robin Hanbury-Tennyson, and this book is actually about Albania, okay? It's one of the least known and least developed countries in Europe, and it has a very long, rich, and troubled past, which is characterized by unrest and isolation. Now, until today, very little is known of the Albanian people beyond those that have actually immigrated to other countries in Europe, from Albania. And its landscape is virtually untraveled, and this is the perfect setting for this book. So determined to discover the country of Albania, without the stereotypes and preconceptions, the author Robin Hanbury-Tennyson and his wife Luella rode their horses across Albania from Tethi in the north to the border with Greece in the south. The fourth book which you should be reading is The Last Secrets of the Silk Road, In the Footsteps of Marco Polo by Horse and Camel. This book is by Alexandra Tolstoy. Now, Alexandra recounts the incredible sojourn she made with 3 companions in 1999 through some of the least explored countries and areas of the world. This includes Turkmenistan, Uzbekistan, Kyrgyzstan, and of course China. And it is on horses and on camels. Definitely worth the read if you haven't already. The fifth book that you should be reading is actually Going the Distance. This is the second book in the Equestrian Adventuresses series. Now, this book also, kind of like the first one, is a whole bunch of different authors have contributed their stories, and you will read about like a girl who goes to New Zealand, and then the first couple pages there's quicksand and this and that, and she's kind of going with her pack horses. I don't want to spoil it, but it's pretty darn fascinating. And you're also going to read about, places like India through the ears of a Marwari horse, the horses that have the little curved ears. You get to experience that. And, it's a whole lot cheaper than actually flying to India, which is pretty cool. So, Going the Distance, the Equestrian Adventuresses series, book 2, definitely worth a read. Again, you can find the book on Amazon.com or Amazon globally. And we're also going to include a link in the description for you if you haven't already. Book number 6 on our list is Last of the Donkey Pilgrims by Kevin O'Hara. Kevin O'Hara's journey is actually circling the entire coastline of Ireland on foot with a donkey and a cart, okay? Pretty spectacular. Now, Kevin had promised his homesick Irish mother that he would explore the whole of the old country and bring back the sights and the stories to their home in Massachusetts. Determined to reach his grandmother's village by Christmas Eve, Kevin and his stubborn but endearing donkey Missy set off on an 1,800-mile trek along the entire jagged coastline of a divided Ireland. Now, as someone who has personally ridden around in Ireland, I can definitely say it is a very fascinating country, and it's one of those, like, gems that, like, I don't know, the pictures just don't do it justice. It's like a truly spectacular country with extremely friendly people. So this book is definitely one of those that you need to be reading. Book number 7 on our list is actually Tishflee's Ride by Amy Tishflee. Now, this book I read as a child. This is one of those, like, every horsey person has to read this kind of things. It's actually about one man's journey 10,000 miles from the bottom of South America to Washington, D.C., and he does this adventure with 2 amazing Criollo horses who, they save his life time and time again. It's completely fascinating, this book, and you're going to fall madly in love with his horses, as I did. So I still, fantasize about some of his horses to this day, and definitely as a child, I was lost in this book. Book number 8 on our list is the Equestrian series' 3rd book. Surprise, surprise. So this is Leg Up, and this book also, it has stories in India, it has stories in South America. I mean, a girl, she actually goes to South America, like very close to the Antarctic kind of situation. It's very cold there, and she is one of the only people that actually speaks English, so she's thrown with all these gauchos and has to basically communicate with them and learn Spanish on the fly. So very fascinating to walk in her shoes. And we also have a lot of other interesting stories. So for example, Mongolia and even the country Georgia. Maybe you haven't heard of the country of Georgia, but that's in this book. So it's a pretty fascinating story. And then, of course, there's also a woman in Poland and a girl who finds her heart horse in the beautiful countryside of Yorkshire in England. So this book is definitely worth a read. Book number 9 on our list is Lady Longrider. Now, in her incredible memoir, Lady Longrider, Alone Across America on Horseback, we are introduced to Bernice Ende. She's kind of a legend in the long riders, circle. And she has this daunting goal of traveling from Trego, Montana to New Mexico in a single ride at the age of 50, okay? So Bernice turned south into the unknown and began her first voyage on the way to becoming a world-class long rider. Since then, she hasn't looked back, and accompanied by her horses and an exceptional dog named Claire, Enda has logged more than 29,000 miles in the saddle, crisscrossing North America and beyond. This book is perfect for riders wanting to travel on horseback. And the last book on our list of horse adventure books you should be reading, book number 10, On the Trail of Genghis Khan by Tim Cope. Now, I actually saw the documentary series as well as read the book. If you haven't seen the documentary, it is also very interesting. But the book, definitely something that you should be reading, especially if you have a love for Mongolia or Kazakhstan or Russia and you're really curious about a lot of these places. He actually dives into how he was able to sort of cross the borders and sort of the diplomatic procedures that he had to experience and encounter, and he actually got stuck in Kazakhstan, and he had this trip took him 3 years. So it is a mega journey from Mongolia across Mongolia through Kazakhstan, Russia, Crimea, and the Ukraine, and he made it to the Danube River in Hungary. That was his final destination. And accompanied by his dog Tigan, he went from horse riding novice to traveling 3 years and 10,000 kilometers on horseback. Pretty incredible journey. Definitely worth the read. Again, if you haven't already hit the subscribe button, please go ahead and do so now. Also, please comment below if you have a book that you've read that you think is worth joining this list. Now, if you are, a bookworm like I am and you want more, we have a mega massive list, 45 plus books on our list. It's on our website, equestrianadventuresses.com. Just, go to Equestrian Adventuresses, type in book list. It's massive, okay? You're never going to run out of ideas. And if you actually read all of these books, please comment below because you deserve a reward, and we're going to give you a shout out in one of our future videos. So, thank you very much for watching, and I look forward to seeing you in the next one. Happy trails!